Okay, we are live and we'll be right back.
It's the California Recall Debate, hosted by Yes California.
Patrick Kilpatrick, can you hear us now, sir? Okay. Could you say something, sir? All right. I would say log out of the stream, hit the exit, and then come back in. That's usually the quickest way for us to work out any technical details. We will wait for you. Just simply leave studio and then click the link to come right back in. That should alleviate any issues. I think we can hear you on your end. Okay. 1 second. Log out and log back. You have to log out, so you have to click leave and then just rejoin the stream. Yes. I understand we're not getting sound from Patrick Kilpatrick. We are working on that right at the minute. Easiest thing, Patrick, is if you could log out and then log back in. Okay. We're going to go ahead and start with the instructions while we work through technical details. Let me handle these comments. It's not audio.
I've never had this issue before.
There you go. We can hear you. Yes. Okay. So, Patrick, can you hear us? We can hear you. All right, we're going to get started. Thank you all for being here. This is the Yes California Recall Candidates debate with Leo Zaki, Professor James G. Hennick, Patrick Kilpatrick, and Steve Chavez Lodge of some fame. I think that's fair to say. We're going to have the Recall Candidates debate today, as we do every couple of weeks, making sure we provide information directly to you, the voters, about the candidates. We're going to cover the speech by Gavin Newsom. 1 second. Mute that. And the questions will be coming from this speech. If all of the candidates go to the private chat button, so you should have an interface, there should be a private chat button. In the private chat button is a link to this video. Let me repost it. Also in the comments, we are posting the video. So if you go to comments, Patrick, can you hear us? Patrick, can you hear us? Okay. It says my mic is working. It sounds like your mic's working. Can you say something right now, sir? Okay, we're not hearing you.
Let's see.
I heard that, though. I think you just have to move closer to the microphone. Okay, I'm not going to spend the whole show working on tech details. I apologize, but we have a show to do. My apologies. So if everybody could go to the private chat, there's the link to the Gavin Newsom video. We are going to have all the questions come from that, and we will play a video in a second. However, can you hear us now? Okay. While Patrick works on technical details, we're going to go right to candidate introductions. So I'm going to ask each candidate to spend 2 minutes introducing themselves however they would like to see while we continue to work out the technical issues. So we're going to go in order of my screen. Leo Zaki, James Hannick, Patrick Kilpatrick, and then last but not least, Mr. Chavez Lodge. So let me write that down. Leo Zaki, in 2 minutes, how would you like to be seen by the people of California as the potential next leader of 40 million people? Candidate Zaki.
Well, I'd like to be seen as a uniter. I'm someone who wants to bring.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
I can't hear.
Leo, please go. I had him on mute. Please start over again. Sorry about that.
All right. So I would like to be seen as a uniter by the people of California. I'm someone who wants to bring people together. We have a lot of issues here in California that are definitely issues that we don't have to worry about partisanship. We all know that we have a homeless crisis. We all know that we have a drought. We all know we have a crumbling economy. We're all going through this whole COVID nonsense together. I would like to bring everyone together so we can fix all the problems that we have here in the state. This is no longer about left and right. It's about making California the home that we all know it deserves to be. I have experience in business, specifically agriculture, the agriculture industry, which is what makes California the world's 5th largest economy. I've been the vice president of Zaki Farms, which was at one point the largest privately owned employer in California. I've spent many years as a board member of the California Poultry Federation, meeting with politicians in DC and Sacramento. I've met many of our congressmen, senators, state reps, and whatnot. And going through those experiences, I've discovered that many of them are self-serving and do not care about any of us. That's why I've been very compelled to join the race. I'm tired of seeing our lovely home go down the toilet. We don't need to live like this. We shouldn't have people on the street living in poverty. We can uplift these people. We can help end the drought. These are man-made issues that we can solve together. And I want to be that person for California. Thank you.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Professor Hannick, 40 million people are going to choose who will rule over them with incredible powers that have been expanded under the current governor. 1 second, Patrick Kilpatrick, we will get to you. 1 second, I will get to you in 1 second. I just want to finish Professor Hannick's introduction. How would you like to be seen by those people, Professor Hannick, in 2 minutes? Professor James Hannick.
I'd like to be seen as the candidate of the American Solidarity Party. It's a party that's real, it's growing, and it's pro-life for the whole of life. We're neither conservative nor liberal, neither capitalist nor socialist. Our party is, however, progressive in the best sense. We want to make progress towards the common good. And I'd like to be known as the candidate who can give a coherent account of what the common good is. It's not just the good of a wealthy few. It's not just the good of the shifting majority. It is rather the good of every human being. And to advance the common good, we need to honor the principle of solidarity. And that principle says that the first measure of justice is how we treat the most vulnerable. We need to follow the principle of subsidiarity. We work from the grassroots up, from our local communities, and then, when necessary, to the county level and the state level. And we work from the principle of economic democracy, that is, the widest ownership possible of land, of homes, of the means of production, of the means of communication. Now, this vision of the American Solidarity Party is a vision that, among other entities, the Los Angeles Times simply cannot grasp. I think it's beyond their intellectual capacities, or if it's not, it's outside of their marketing plan. And I'd like to be known as the candidate who calls them to task for that.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we're going to go to Patrick Kilpatrick. You're unmuted. You're muted on your end, Patrick. Okay, there you go.
I wasn't able to hear the initial question first. So.
It's simple introductions. You have 2 minutes, sir. How would you like 40 million people to view you as candidate Kilpatrick? What would you like them to know about you? how would you like to be seen? And how would you like to be viewed? As an outsider, as an insider, whatever you would like. This is your chance to present yourself as you want the voters to know you. Patrick Kilpatrick, in 2 minutes. How would you like to be seen by 40 million people, sir?
Well, I'd like to be seen as a person who delivers the goods and gets it done in whatever endeavor he embarks upon. I think I've demonstrated that in the advertising world, the journalism world, the Broadway, off-Broadway, regional theater, Kennedy Center of Performing Arts, 200 films and hit TV shows, working with the best and the brightest of the last quarter century and beyond. I've delivered it as a screenwriter and as a movie producer, a person with vision, as an employer, as a person who gives people well-meaning jobs in the film industry and beyond. I'd simply like to be looked at by going to kilpatrickforgovernor.com, kilpatrickforgovernor.com, and you'll see a program that elevates all and embraces all with visionary solutions to our synergistic problems, which are all encompassing.
Excellent, excellent. I like how you branded in there. That was excellent.
Well, it's not simply branding, Marcus. It's simply the truth.
Oh, I mean, you put in your website, so that's a nice thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a large program for people here that encompasses climate change, the undocumented, homelessness, taxes, law enforcement, crime, and equal justice. That should cause the audience to go and want to investigate all of us. I spent some time today investigating everybody that I'm running against. And there's some bright people with some bright ideas, but I don't think there's anybody who's got an encompassing visionary program that's executable for California.
Candidates are encouraged to point out why they are the best one and why other people perhaps don't have the right answers. We expect you to be courteous and professional, but people have to make a choice. And when you get to Sacramento, you are going to have to argue for your ideas against people who don't want to hear it. The ability to show voters now that you can stand up for what you believe in and why it's different and better will probably encourage more voters to vote for you. Let's go to Steve Chavez Lodge. Steve, how would you like 40 million Californians to see you? Perhaps it's in line with your television appearances. Perhaps it's not. This is your chance to frame yourself however you want to be seen, the right way. Candidate Chavez Lodge, how would you like to be seen by the world's 5th largest economy, sir?
Well, I'd like to be seen as bringing back the rule of law and really focusing on bringing crime down in California, because it's going off the chart again, just like it did back in the 1990s. I'm a native of California, but I've seen 63 years of change in California, and the last 11 years have been absolutely born in Southern California, grew up here. I raised my family here. My grandkids are being raised here. I left from high school and went in the military. And after my military service, I came back and became a police officer for nearly 30 years in the city of Santa Ana. While I was in the police department, worked probably every possible unit in the police department. And finally, the last 15 years, worked gang homicide, and cold case homicides, with the career criminal unit. Career criminal unit is a multi-jurisdictional task force with federal agencies, state agencies, and local law enforcement combined together to bring their resources together and to go after violent crime. And that's what we did in the 90s. And by 2005, we went from 150 homicides a year in Santa Ana and some of the other jurisdictions that had even more. We brought ours down to 5. We knew what we were doing. It was a strategic approach, and it was all hands on deck to help and really crush crime. I authored the first RICO case in Orange County history. We did a great job, and I'm proud of that. I managed over 12 different agencies and about 300 officers. So this is what I bring to the table. We really have lost our way in California when it comes to law enforcement. We need to bring back common sense strategies. And what Newsom has done is he's basically created the perfect storm for not only crime, but for homelessness. In 2011, him and Brown, they passed AB 109 and then Prop 57 and 47, and basically flushed out the prison system into the streets with no rehabilitation, nowhere for these people to go. And they were addicted drug users, some about alcoholics, some mentally ill. And that's what I want to bring to the table.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep that ammo dry because we're going to call on you in a few minutes. There'll be a chance to do that. So what I'd like to do is if everybody can look at the private chat, you have a link to this video. I will also play it. It's also in the comments. But basically, this is the video. So recently, Gavin Newsom did an interview about the recall. And it wasn't his best work. Now, you can totally support the recall. You can be disgusted by the recall. You can think Gavin Newsom is the greatest governor ever. You can think he's got to go. We're not taking a stance. Whatever your stance is what you want. This was a video where the governor took a lot of, he made a lot of opinions and presented his understanding of the worldview about the recall. We have taken that interview and broken it down into these questions. We're going to ask all of you candidates to either agree or disagree with the governor. Whatever you say is up to you. And if you'd like to point out how the other candidates are wrong in their interpretation, that's also welcome. Roughly, we'll show the video here in a minute, but roughly, the governor says homegrown teen doesn't cover what's right and only focuses on what's wrong. Does he get unfair news coverage about the mistakes? And does he not get enough positive news coverage for everything he's done? How bad a governor is he? Or is he just being picked on? Does the media treat Gavin Newsom unfairly? Or in fact, has he been given a gentle touch by the majority of the media markets during the recall election? Your opinion. He says that California has more job creation than anyone in America. That California recovered out of the COVID recession faster than Florida or Texas. Is that true? Is that not true? The governor also says there's an $80 billion budget surplus, the largest in California history ever. Is that accurate, given that the Legislative Analyst Office said that he's overestimating by $30 billion? Who's wrong, the LAO think tank or the governor? That's up to you to decide. Newsom says that he cares about working folks. Are voters getting the largest tax rebate in history? Are renters getting back all of their rent? Has the governor done everything possible in order to help working folks? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. The governor also says that California electric bills are lower in California than in other states. I can tell you out of Fresno, at least here in Fresno, that's not true. Is that true for the rest of California? Is that not? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. He also says that California has an effective homeless policy, and it's the most effective one that's existed in decades. Do you agree? Do you not agree? It's up to you. He also says that poverty was in decline before the pandemic. I don't recall that being the case, but I could be wrong. I'm not running for governor. You can inform me and the public. Do we have it wrong? Do we have it right? Finally, Gavin Newsom says he cares about us conservatives and rural people here in the Central Valley. Does he? Is that true? Is that not true? And finally, he says people, sorry, that's a typo. Let me fix that real quick. Does everyone in America complain about California, not because of our wildfires, not because of our homelessness, not because of our wealth gap, not because of the loss of jobs, not because of the crushing middle class rules, but because they're just jealous of our success? It's up to you. You're going to tell us what's the truth and what's not. Again, this is the video here. It was called Gavin Newsom Unloads. Be damn nice if reporters started focusing on what's right. I'm going to show the video for a few minutes. You may hear it clearly, you may not. You have the link, but these are the questions. So while you're thinking about those questions, I'm going to spend 3 minutes showing the video for everybody, and then we will come back. Each of you will have a minute to a minute and a half to give your take on what the governor said, whether you agree or don't agree. 3 minutes. We'll be right back. We're going to show the video for everybody to follow along, and we'll be right back in 3 minutes.
It'd be damn nice if our homegrown team start focusing on what's right. Everybody outside the state is bitching about.
Let me unmute my mic. Did the video show? I was told it was not showing. Was it showing?
I saw it, but I couldn't hear it.
Okay. Well, we'll just cut to the questions. I think you all get the basic thing. The governor was very upset. He felt that the coverage of him was unfair. Let's find out what you, the candidates, think. And if you agree with him or don't agree with him, you can take whatever stance you want. We're going to go in order, and we're going to go with the first big controversial question. First up is Leo Zaki. Leo Zaki, in about 1 minute, is the media being unfair to Gavin Newsom? Is he being overly targeted? Do people just forget all the good stuff going on and they're just overly focused on negative stuff? Or do we actually have real big problems that are legitimately a legitimate cause to be worried about if you're an average voter? Leo Zaki, your take in 1 minute. I'm sorry, I need to unmute everybody. I apologize. You are unmuted. Leo Zaki.
We absolutely have legitimate cause to be upset with Gavin Newsom. I think the fact that we had, 46 people make it to the ballot for the recall, I think is testament to everyone being upset here in California. And I think the media going after him, surprisingly, is it's a refreshing thing to see, especially after the way the media has been treating Donald Trump for the last 5 years. Gavin Newsom, when he first got into office, people forget that he lowered restrictions on child molesters, or lowered the punishment on child molesters. Something quite disgusting and despicable. I don't know why they didn't do that. But he's led to a whole host of problems here in California, and let it not be a surprise to anybody that his aunt is Nancy Pelosi, and there is a lot of support coming from a very corrupt criminal Democratic Party and other criminal interests. He's run the state into the ground. There's no doubt about it. And the claims that he's made, I would say, are extremely exaggerated, fabricated, and in some cases circumstantial. Like, for example, the surplus, I would say, is very circumstantial. But yes, the media does need to go after him, and that's why there is a recall, because enough of us are fed up. That's why we're all here today.
Okay, Professor James Hannick, you can agree or disagree. Has the governor been unfairly targeted? Are things going great and we're just committed to talking about negative things? Or are there serious issues that have happened under his reign? Professor Hannick.
On the coverage, and that's what I'd like to focus on. Since the recall has begun, the coverage has been overwhelmingly pro-Newsom. I did a short piece for something called the American Commons over the weekend. It's an e-zine of the American Solidarity Party. And I began it like this. The gubernatorial recall ballots are here. September 14th is the due date for their return. The media is perking up, but it's pretty much just one spin that's getting spun. It goes as follows. The recall is a Republican end run. Its goal is to sneak a deep blue Yahoo into the top job in a deep red state. Watch out, the Trumpies are on the prowl. So vote or else. If I were working for the Times, I would be bored out of my gourd for having said the same thing in different ways for the last several weeks. It's really sorrowful. So in terms of how the recall is playing out, the LA Times is cheerleading for Newsom. In terms of the truth of the matter, there are plenty of people that aren't Trumpies. Some of them you've had on your debate, Marcus, and I'm glad to hear that. Glad to be part of those who want to challenge the narrative.
Thank you. We have a couple questions to get through, so it's about a minute and a half. Let's go to Patrick Kilpatrick. Has the media been fair, unfair, balanced, or even, in your opinion, sir? Patrick Kilpatrick.
Well, I think it's in transition. I think initially the media wanted to squash the whole notion of the recall. I think they treated it as if it was a non-issue, that Newsom was going to be ushered in again. But the transition has begun and people are interested. And I would throw the entire set of questions posed by that interview. Initially, I saw Mr. Newsom in that interview and I thought he needs to spend some time in counseling in the infrastructure that is not in existence for the mentally challenged that are homeless, because he looks like a man who's seriously deranged and delusional. I would ask your audience, Marcus, is anybody out there thinking this state is in better shape right now across the whole range of issues that were brought up there, in better shape? As a filmmaker and a person who's responsible for putting imagination and vision into reality, I face the studios every week and they say, you can do whatever you want, but don't shoot in California. You can do whatever you want. So the same is true of businesses here. For all of the innovation he purports to exist here, businesses have been fleeing this state left, right, and center. Crime is on the rise across the board. Our homicide rate is rising almost 50%. I mean, it's across the board. The state is, in some areas, sure, it's a great, lovely weather, and there's a lot of great people here that are yearning for governance to lift them out of the morass that we're in a whole variety of circumstances. So his commercial is completely delusional.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Chavez Lodge, your take on Gavin Newsom's take, sir.
Well, I think anything good that's happened is in spite of his governorship, rather than he should be taking credit for any of it. All he has done is created the issues and made the issues that existed even worse. So the media's portrayal of him has always been, you know, you got to remember who the media is. The media is a business they want to make money. That's why they will not have anybody that does not have a gigantic bank account on their networks anymore. Because if you don't have enough money to bring to the table to buy their commercials and to spend money on their network, they don't want to have anything to do with you. So you can see who is getting what candidates are getting all the media attention. They're the candidates that have the bank accounts to buy the commercials on those networks. It's not about their ideas. They're not smarter than any of us, and they're not smarter than any of the voters. It all comes down to money. And of course, Newsom does have a lot of money. So he still gets, they should have ran him out on a rail as much as damage as he's done to California. But he'll still get, he's buying his commercials. So, you know, the media is going to be, they'll hit him a little bit, but not enough to keep him from spending the money.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to skip question 2 because it's too similar. We're going to go to question 3. The governor's saying that California has more job creation than anyone in America, and that it came out of the COVID recession better than Texas and Florida. Yet at the same time, we have record numbers of businesses fleeing and record numbers of middle-class businesses being destroyed. What's the truth, in your opinion? Let's go to candidate Zaki. Candidate Zaki, please inform us, the voters, what to believe. We're hearing multiple stories. What's the accurate version of what's happening to the California economy? Leo Zaki.
It's going down the toilet. Businesses are running out of here rapidly. I know many people who have packed up their own small businesses and gone out for greener pastures in places like Florida and Texas. I would say have fared far better than California has during this whole COVID scamdemic. I'm not saying that COVID isn't real, but it's not really that dangerous. Yes, people can die. However, back to the question at hand about the economy. California is losing businesses because we have overregulation that is crippling the ability for businesses to keep enough money to grow their businesses to then further provide jobs for folks. And when they're using to say that Texas and Florida have done worse than us is a complete farce.
Okay. Short and sweet. Let's go to, one second, reset. Professor Hennig, is the economy doing great, better than everywhere, or is it not? Professor.
I think with that kind of a claim, Newsom's claim, you have to specify per what. I have no doubt that California created more jobs than Rhode Island. Hope so. I have no jobs that there's more of a buildup in terms of the economy than Mississippi. I should hope so. But we don't want to look at it in such a general way. It has to be focused. Now, because our worthy candidates here know that I'm a contrarian, I want to mention, and I'm sure I won't be able to get this completely mentioned, that there are plenty of businesses that aren't environmentally responsible. They don't pay a living wage. They really produce things that aren't worthy of being produced. And I really don't mind if they leave. In fact, I'd have a small goodbye party for them.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Patrick Kilpatrick. What is the situation with the California economy? Please provide us some insight as uninformed voters as to what's happening. Is everything great and we have no issues and everything's working better than anywhere in America, including the 2 fastest growing states? Or are there real economic long-term strategic problems? Your take. I don't know what to believe.
Long term, there's very few states providing real vision to what should be happening. And particularly California should be leading the way. If there's an $80 billion surplus, which I doubt that there is, but if there's an $80 billion surplus, why don't we have desalination plants throughout the state to service our water needs instead of draining other people's rivers? Why do we not have solar powered subsidies and wind power subsidies to get us off of fossil fuels, which is a central problem to many of our issues throughout the state that has to do with the economy? Why are we not the economic exporter of solar power and wind power technology to the world and leading the way, as we should be leading the way in education? I think what's good about this economy is the entrepreneurial spirit of the people, the restaurant owners who went out into the streets to make their businesses function. Those people who responded to the COVID environment and to the endless restrictions that were placed on us that did not really safeguard our vulnerable population. So I think there's a lot of great things to do with the economy. They have to do with the spirit of the California people. And California is so far behind the curve of leading the nation and the world that I think it's absolutely stunning. There is no vision coming out of Sacramento, no vision whatsoever to meet our challenges throughout the new century that we find ourselves in.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve Chavez Lodge, what is the accurate assessment of the California economy, sir, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know what Newsom's smoking, but it's completely wrong. He claims to have an $80 billion surplus. All it is borrowed money from the feds. That money will not be here. He's already spent most of it, and we're going to be in debt. California has a structural debt of about $2 trillion. We can't print money. We have to work our way out of it. And we have the most restrictive environmental rules and regulations that there are. Companies are fleeing this state left and right. We lost a third of all small businesses last year. It's crumbling. I have been to at least 35 different counties in the last 3 weeks, and every single one of those counties, and I've been to them before, looked worse than they did the last time I visited. So this is not going in the right direction. Cap and trade is nothing but a huge tax on manufacturers. We have plenty of oil here in California. We have refineries here in California, but we have the most expensive gas in California, gasoline, the highest taxes. We have the highest cost of living in the entire country, other than Hawaii, I think. So in the continental U.S., we're the highest cost of living. There's no excuse for that. We have resources that are just not managed. 78% of our water flows out into the ocean. We built a system for water storage for 15 million people. We now have 40 million, and it didn't grow with the size of the population. Government needs to get back to what they're supposed to do, infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go to the next question. Chavez Lodge already hit on it, but basically, so the governor is saying there's an $80 billion surplus. Don't worry about the recession. We made so much money. We have a surplus the likes of which we've never seen before. But there's a hiccup. The official research arm of Sacramento is called the California Legislative Analyst Office, or the LAO. They said that the governor had it wrong and that the surplus is $38 billion, or half of what the governor said. So who do we believe? The official analyst of the California government or the governor himself? This is for you to explain who's actually telling it right and what is the actual budget surplus. Something as governor you would be taking over. Let's go to candidate Zaki in roughly 1 minute, maybe a minute and a half. Who do we believe? How big is the surplus? And why is there a discrepancy? Candidate Zaki.
Well, because there's a discrepancy, I wouldn't believe either. And being someone who likes to be conservative when it comes to business matters, I would go on the lower end. And I would also state that it is very circumstantial. A lot of the times when they need more money for the budget, what they'll do is they will borrow money from the following year's budget and the following year's budget after that. And that's how we develop the massive $2 trillion debt that we have in the state. So it's completely circumstantial. And I totally disagree with the governor, the current governor Newsom right now. And I think all of us need to take a more vested interest in learning about what's actually going on in our governments. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people like to stay ignorant, blissfully ignorant to the world around us. And it's something that we need to definitely address and focus on. But the surplus, it's not as huge as it is, and it's not only is it circumstantial, but it's not natural. It's a fluke. It's a one-off. I wouldn't see this happening naturally from our own state's revenues.
Okay. Professor Haney, In about a minute, minute and a half, what is the budget surplus and why is there a discrepancy?
I don't think that anyone knows. I think the general public have a sense that no one knows. There needs to be a comprehensive audit. However, when we talk about all these economic issues, we should, sooner rather than later, look to see how the family is affected. And I want to go back just 1 second to the restaurants. I like to go to a good restaurant occasionally if it's family owned. But here's my question. Why are so many people going to restaurants in the first place? Why don't families eat at home? Is it that they don't have any time? Why is it that they don't have any time? Why is it that we live at restaurants? That's a real problem.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to Patrick Kilpatrick. Candidate Kilpatrick, is there a budget surplus? Is the governor telling the truth? Or is the LA telling the truth? Why are we getting radically different figures? Candidate Kilpatrick.
Well, I certainly wouldn't believe whatever Gavin Newsom says. The figure of the budget surplus, whatever it is, it should be used and it should be increased by a line item veto of anything that increases taxes to the citizens of this state. It should be, every aspect of the government should be examined so that the wasted spending that takes place is corrected. And then if you have a film budget, a real film budget, you produce it heroically. I call it charismatic producing. You have to figure out how do you put up as much power visually and productively to the screen. What has to happen with whatever our finances are in this state is it has to be exercised with a great deal of restraint, charisma, and heroism in order to increase the value of it to the citizens of the state. So we should be using that surplus wisely. We should be lowering the taxes for people so there's more money in the hands of Californians. We should be solving problems as a government frugally and masterfully. Those are the larger issues. And none of that is an exhibit there. It is an exhibit on my website at kilpatrickforgovernor.com. We can solve these problems just like people do in any business that thrives and survives by doing the hard, effective choices that need to take place for the state, that have a vision for all the citizens of the state.
Thank you. Candidate Chavez Lodge, is there a budget surplus? Is there not? Who are we supposed to believe, in your opinion, sir?
Well, if you're believing that, I got some swampland in Florida that I'd like to sell you. There is no surplus. And they claim that they have balanced the budget. But if you use all their little tricks of borrowing from one account, taking from another account, yeah, you can probably balance it. It's like paying the minimums on your credit cards at home. Sooner or later, they're going to come and take your house away because you are not paying your bills. Our interest is getting higher than what the budget can be. And the same with the federal government. So no, I think the problem here is not so much a revenue problem, it's a spending problem. Mm-hmm. Newsom and his clan and from the Brown administration, they are spendaholics. They cannot see a program that they don't want to fund. And Democrats, once they fund a program, even if it's horrible and it doesn't work, they just keep throwing more money at it. What has to happen is we got to reduce the size of a bloated government and return the money back to people and spend in the market. So I have a proposal on the table to within 5 years eliminate California state income tax. And that comes with freezing government hiring and lowering or creating a smaller government that is responsive to the people, and we can return that money to the people. And if you freeze government spending for 5 years, the market will catch up. And the people that are even in the government, and their checks won't be any different because now they're not paying income tax. If you reduce it 20% on each year for 5 years, you eliminate state income tax.
Okay, we're going to go to the next question. Governor Newsom says he cares about working class folks, the middle class, and particularly the lower middle class that has expanded in size during the 2008 recession and the COVID-19 recession. Through both recessions, the number of Californians who moved from upper middle class or middle class to lower middle class and just above poverty massively increased. The governor says he cares about these people. And in the last couple months, he's done a lot to help them. As potentially the next governor over all of these people in California, virtual nation state that has the largest gap between the richest and poorest found anywhere in America and equivalent to the Gilded Age of the 1800s England. That means really, really bad. Does the governor care about working class folks? Did he do enough to help people during this time? The wealth gap's the biggest it's ever been in history. What has he done? Has he done enough? Could he do more? If you're going to replace him, you should have ideas about what's he doing for middle class folks, lower middle class folks, and keep those businesses here? Or is he doing plenty and you'd only continue his awesome policies? Let's go first to Leo Zaki for 1 minute.
Is my mic coming
What
through?
should we believe?
Is my mic coming through clear?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Newsom doesn't care about folks. He's made that very apparent to all of us. Look how he's passed ridiculous laws supporting child molestation. He's lowered all sorts of standards for us in California when it comes to living. It's let's see, are voters getting all the largest tax rebate in history? Well, I don't know. Do you call stimulus tax a tax rebate? I mean, we did kind of pay for that money. Are the renters getting all of their back rent? I don't believe so. There's a lot of issues, and he doesn't care for anyone. At least you're gonna have been distracted by my mic issues.
No, you're coming in clear.
Okay. No, he doesn't care.
Okay. Professor Henning, same question to you. Has the governor done enough for working class and lower income folks, or is there more to be wanted? Professor Henning.
There certainly is more to be done. What we have to do is move away from the capitalist system that we have, which doesn't mean move towards a socialist system. It means moving towards a distributive system. That would involve emphasizing worker ownership. That would involve emphasizing community ownership. That would involve looking to products that really help people, as opposed to moving the economy along with one advertising scheme after another that creates artificial desires. We need to change the system, and we don't have to choose between capitalism and socialism. We can choose the distributist path, and you need to do some thinking about it. So check out the American Solidarity Party website.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Patrick Kilpatrick. Has the governor done enough for lower class people?
No, because there's been a complete fleeing of all the businesses and industries, eco-sensitive, I might add, that add prosperity to working class people's lives. That's why we've called for the returning of those businesses to California by solving a host of problems, which involve unions and the high cost of housing. That's why we've called for design-worthy affordable housing, and the fact of having a 70% renovation tax subsidy for young couples and people who wish to get on the home ladder by taking a vintage or historical building and renovating it and making it their own. So no, Governor Newsom hasn't done anything for working class people. He was making reservations at the French Laundry. What can I tell you? As well as propping up an oligarchy that actually has no interest in the citizens of the state.
Okay, short and succinct. Let's go to Steve Chavez Lodge. Has the governor done everything possible or more than anyone before him to help lower middle class people who recently found themselves in that economic layer get out of that? Or is there more to be desired? Candidate Chavez Lodge.
Well, considering we lost 200,000 Californians last year, I'd say, and most of those were middle class and wealthy. I would say that no, he's not doing any good for middle class, and they are the ones that are fleeing California. And when you talk about wealthy Americans and middle class Americans, they are the ones that are paying the taxes and revenues that come in that can help some of the lower income folks. What he's done is he's created dependency in the lower income class. Instead of moving the obstacles that will increase commerce and increase the likelihood of them getting a job that moves higher up and has a bigger income. He's done everything opposite to have that effect. And the more people you run out of here that are actually paying into the system, who is going to be paying the bills? Your revenues are going to decline, and the government's going to increase in size. The dependency is going to increase, and you're going to have a failing, bankrupt state. And you can see that happening already. If you look around this state and visit the different cities, they are a mess.
Okay, we're going to go to the next question. The governor said that he has created an effective homeless policy for the first time in decades. He's done a better job than everybody. It's more effective and more comprehensive, and we haven't had anything like that that's that big an overhaul of homelessness in about 20 to 30 years. Is that true? Is that not true? Candidate Zaki, your take, the most effective homeless policy ever seen in decades, or what are we to believe? Leo Zaki.
Just go outside, go down the street, look under your overpasses, look at the beaches. No, we have a horrible situation, and it is totally unfair to these people. They are humans. They are some, and many of them are our citizens, and they need to be uplifted out of poverty. What is currently going on by providing hotels as housing does not solve the source of the problem. I have a solution that will end homelessness, or at least bring it to an absolute minimum, to the likes we haven't seen in nearly a century, I'd imagine. It's about teaching a man to fish instead of giving a man a fish. And part of that would be including providing facilities for the homeless if they so choose to take part and go there, because we cannot force people to go into these, because this is not a totalitarian society as much as the media and the current administration would like to drive us in that direction. I want to provide facilities where we can determine if these folks, one, who they are. Is anybody looking for them? Are they citizens of this country? Do they have a mental disorder? Do they have a drug addiction? On top of that, once they're there, we'll be able to provide treatment and also allow them to learn the ability to give them the ability to learn a skill. I know that working with your hands gives me the greatest accomplishment in the world. So having a background in agriculture, I'd like to be able to provide folks with an ability to have on-the-job training in agriculture. We can also provide them with the skills to learn firefighting, which we also would need a lot of help with, especially with the current largest wildfire in our state's recorded history burning that the media is not covering fairly or adequately. Giving folks that ability to learn a skill will then also, on-the-job training will provide them pay. And with that, they'll be able to be reintegrated into society with a skill, free of addiction, and with treatment for their illness if they have one. So that is how I see us successfully ending and uplifting folks out of homelessness. Currently, we are not doing that. Newsom is not doing that. And all they're doing is encouraging other states to send their downtrodden to us, for us to have to bear the brunt of.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor James Haney, your take, sir.
I like to do a riff on tithing. I'd like to see 1 out of every 10 Californians go and speak personally to a homeless person and do so for several weeks so that we really understand something in a firsthand way. That said, I think we will find out that central to homelessness is social isolation. Central to
You muted yourself. There you go. You're on.
Can I start up again?
You'll have time. Yes, we got you halfway through.
All right. You got me halfway through? I'm not sure. Personal encounters with homeless people on a regular basis over a period of a few months. That would help us to know what's really going on. One of the things we're going to find is that there's terrible social isolation. The social isolation is chiefly caused by the breakdown of the family. The third point I want to mention is meth addiction is out of control. There needs to be vigorous, aggressive crackdown on drug dealers and drug manufacturers. They kill people.
Okay. Patrick Kilpatrick.
Well, when you look at it, Newsom has been involved with the homeless issue for 17 years. He's been on both sides of the issue. Sometimes he's demonized the homeless. Sometimes he's thrown enormous money at them. None of it has worked. You look at the state and there's no infrastructure whatsoever to handle the various population, all the way from the able-bodied people, good-meaning people who've fallen on hard times, to those who just wish to live on the dole, and the criminal elements, the sex traffickers, the drug addicted, and the mentally challenged. There's no infrastructure to handle any of these people. And there also has to be a very, very omnipresent involvement of law enforcement for those people who do not wish to go to drug rehab, for those people who do not wish to contribute to society and think of homelessness as some form of freedom statement. We need to take care of the people who need compassion, and we need tough love for the people who do not want to be contributing members of society. I propose that if we have to build a city out near the desert where these people can be housed, educated, separated, and utilized so that they can go into a statewide forestry program and workforce to beautify the state, be given unemployment and housing decently so that these problems can stop existing. I think generally people look at homelessness and say, oh, well, it's a really challenging problem. How do we get rid of it? You start by saying, this is unacceptable. It does not continue. And then you put the infrastructure in place so that it doesn't continue. And it is handled with compassion, with tough love, as all rehabilitation programs embrace as well. And that means a strong presence of law enforcement if you are dealing with people who are sex trafficking, criminalizing, and doing all the variety of things that able-bodied and good-meaning people aren't doing. We need to assert as a society that this is unacceptable behavior.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to candidate Chavez Lodge. What is your opinion, sir?
Well, what you're doing is asking Newsom, who created this disaster in this crisis, to now fix it. And he's had, so he's been he was lieutenant governor in 2011, and it's only gotten worse. And now he's going, oh, wait a minute, I can fix it now. He's not going to. Look, let's face it. The only way we're going to solve the homeless crisis in California is to recognize that we have a severe addiction problem amongst the homeless. It's over 90% that are addicted to drugs, alcohol, or the mentally ill. So what do we have to do with those folks? You can't allow them to live on the streets the way they do in filth, and it's just a disgusting way to live. Now that we have all this room, and I'm talking about 50% of the prisons and jails now have vacancies. So my proposal is to retrofit portions of those secure facilities and create rehabilitation and healthcare centers to where these folks will go, because we still have law on the books that they can be arrested for, whatever the local laws are, or you use the health and safety codes. They can still be given sentences. And what do you give them? You give them an option. You can go to jail or you can go to rehabilitation, but you cannot stay in the position that they are. I mean, you're killing some of these beautiful areas that have businesses because they can't run their business. They got people camped out in front of their business. So, I mean, we have to face it. This is the only compassionate way to do it. You can't just give them, okay, you can go into treatment if you want. They're not going to go into treatment. They're not going to do it on their own. It has to be a secure facility. And using the prison and jail systems that are already secure to put those healthcare and rehabilitation centers together, it's the same money as they're going to spend anyway on trying to box them up and house them somewhere, which is not going to solve anything. As long as you have the addiction and the alcohol problems, you're going to have the homeless problems. I've been involved in the homeless crisis since back way before even Newsom exploded it. And we were able to solve on a smaller scale these issues by bringing all these social services together and using law enforcement, like Patrick has said. You must bring all of the groups together, but it can be done.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 more questions left. In 2008, California was the worst hit state in all of America for the global recession, a recession the likes of which hadn't been seen since the Great Depression. This caused many people to lose their jobs. Now, the super wealthy gained wealth through investments, but a lot of middle-class people moved from middle class to lower middle class, creating the worst gap between the wealthy and the middle class ever before. Gavin Newsom says that he was fixing that problem before the pandemic, and poverty was declining rapidly, and then the pandemic came. And if the pandemic didn't come, the theory or the implication would be poverty would have been continuing to decline, even though the gap was the worst we've ever seen. Is that true? You all lived here in California before the pandemic. Was poverty declining? Were there strategic steps taken to remove that, or were there not? Tell us what to believe. Candidate Zaki.
Well, poverty was declining throughout the country because of Donald Trump and his very progressive business measures. The middle class grew the largest it had ever done because of Donald Trump, not because of Gavin Newsom and not because of anything in California. California actually has been very detrimental to the growth of business and the progression of the middle class. What we're seeing right now with the central banking system and how they're and the Fed is currently just rapidly producing and printing more money. What we're seeing is the COVID crisis. It's essentially the development of how they're going to destroy the middle class. And what they want to do is they want to make everybody dependent on a few of the elites at the top, and then make everybody else below them essentially a slave class that is dependent on the upper class to give them money or some means of living. So no, Gavin Newsom, he's only perpetuating that agenda. We need to lower regulation on business. We need to lower taxes on business. We need to lower taxes on everybody, all sorts of taxes, bring them all down, because we need less government involvement with our lives. We need a smaller government. We don't need a nanny state. We are humans. We are intelligent. We are capable. If you give a person the opportunity to make the right decision, 9 times out of 10, they will do just that, and allow us, the citizens of this nation and of this state, to make those decisions for ourselves without government overreach. That's how we're going to grow the middle class. That's how we're going to stay at the top of the charts, and that's how we'll continue to be the world's 5th largest economy, and hopefully we can become the world's 4th largest economy.
Professor James Hennig, was poverty in decline due to policies established by the current governor before the pandemic, or were they not?
Well, Marcus, the poverty question takes us right back to the homelessness question. The idea that we could have our own Molokai, not for lepers, but for the homeless, is lamentable. The idea that we can take schizophrenic, addicted people and say, all right, now's the time to make a hard choice, is wildly unrealistic and lacks any kind of understanding of what the homeless are really like. What we need to do is to take personal responsibility, and what we need to do is to crack down ruthlessly on the producers and distributors of drugs. And one of the reasons why people are so addicted is because our society tends to be addicted. And one of the reasons why the society is addicted is because we have a capitalist structure that works to promote artificial desires in one sphere of our life after another sphere.
Okay. Candidate Kilpatrick, was poverty in decline? Is that what you saw before the pandemic, or did you see something that differs from Governor Newsom's take? Candidate Kilpatrick.
No, I don't think in California the economy was doing well even before the pandemic. I think it was lacking in vision. It was lacking in incentives for businesses to remain here. The film business is not about the elite. The film business is about the grips, the electric people, the set designers, those kind of people, all of having to go to other states and other locations and other nations to earn a living. That's just a microcosm of the business climate in this state. All these problems take all of us to roll up our sleeves and solve them. My candidacy is about empathy and elevation for all. It's about us as a people in the private sector. Why is it the private sector, the billionaire class, peeling off a couple of billion and not paying taxes? Why don't they just peel off a couple of billion and initiate some programs for the homeless as well? Why are they not paying taxes? That's a question I've never understood. Why? One of the reasons the film business left California was not just because of a lack of incentive competitiveness, but because of the high cost of housing. Why is there no design-worthy housing being constructed? The high cost of union specialized labor. If you make a film in Vancouver, the unions, the Teamsters roll up their sleeves and they help the production happen. So we need to all, as a people, roll up our sleeves and get this done. We need to unite as one people to move forward into the time ahead of us. We've come through a great conversation about law enforcement and equal justice before the law. But was there a conversation during that time about the businesses that were burned out at the same time? The law enforcement was neutered by this administration, and that contributes to a decline in prosperity and safety for all people. So we're better than this in the sense that we can solve multiple problems at the same time, but it has to come from common sense and vision and drive and skill, none of which is in evidence in our governance right now.
Candidate Chavez Lodge, what do you have to say about, was poverty on the downward slope due to Governor Newsom's policies before the pandemic, or is that hogwash?
Well, I think it's probably hogwash. I have to agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Zacky's answers and comments to this. He's right on the money. We've got a problem not in people remaining in poverty. You will always have a lower economic class, a lower middle class, a middle class, and so on up the stairs. The problem here is that we've got a government that continues to grow and become a tyrannical mass taskmaster in California. The cost of living is as high as it is because of our taxes, regulations, and over authoritarian grasp of businesses. As long as you continue to take more money away from your citizens, they'll have less money. How much better off and what class would they be in if you weren't taking so much money away from them? And I'm not talking about just income tax. I'm talking about income tax, property taxes, sales tax, fees, across the board. I'm sure you could probably, if you sat down and listed the taxes you're paying, your taxes are going to be Even the lower income are going to be paying 30% of their income in taxes. The wealthy are paying well over 50, 60%. So the problem is not the marketplace. The problem is not what economic class you're in, because you can always move up and down depending on your skills and what you are able to do. But the problem is we've got a government choking off all of this in California by over regulations and taxes. And it's only feeding the beast, which is the government system.
Okay. Let's go to the very last question. The governor says that everyone in America complains about California, not because of our wildfires, not because of our giant wealth gap, not because of the homeless crisis, not because of this or that, but because they're jealous of our success. Now, to back him up, I have heard of this before. We're jealous of Californians because of our laid-back attitude and our weather. Is that why Americans are complaining about California now, or do we have real problems on scales not seen in 49 other states? And it's shocking. Let's go to Leo Zaki. Tell us what to think. How should we view this issue? Leo Zaki.
Well, we should view it with common sense, and that is certainly that California laws that get passed here wind up becoming federally mandated across the nation. If you look at trucking laws, for example, that got passed here in California that limited the hours that truckers could drive and the speed limit that they could drive, it got wound up becoming mandated across the state and the nation, and has become in effect with that. Also, with emissions standards, they started here in California is higher than the current federal level, and then they became implemented across the nation. So what happens here in California when it comes to things like that winds up spreading across the entire nation, and it affects people throughout the whole country. And it's not fair to folks, because in different places, there's different ways to live. And what might work in California doesn't need to be a blanket term for what works in other places. Of course we have great weather. Of course everybody loves, the stereotypical things to talk about, that they're jealous. That's all. But that has nothing to do with it. California's got the highest population out of any state in the country, and we have the most rules and most restrictions, and they affect other industries and everybody outside of this. They just passed something that had to do with pork, and it's going to make because if companies that raise pigs don't follow certain guidelines, then they won't be allowed to sell it in California, which would be the largest of the 50 states markets. It's just not fair. And people who are in this state, especially in government, that are passing laws when it comes to business, they have no idea about business. They've probably never ran one. They've probably never been in manufacturing. They've probably never been in a large-scale agriculture business, so they wouldn't know what to do. But they go off of things that they've heard, or they've been influenced. I don't know. It's how they get influenced with lobbyists, whether it's money or promises or whatever. I mean, look at Newsom. He was gifted a several $1 million home while he's been in office. You have to wonder why these people in power make these decisions that affect all of us in businesses when they don't know anything about it, nor do they care to learn about it. I've witnessed it firsthand. These are not people that care about you or me or your income or your family or anything. That's why I'm doing this, because I actually care. I've been on the receiving end of poor policy, and I know that you have too. So let's do this and fix this together.
Thank you. Professor Hennig, do people in America complain about California simply because they're jealous of how well we are doing?
Marcus, that's a silly question. We know that they don't complain about us because of our success. I don't think they think about us as much as we think about them thinking about us. And I would like to restrict my answer in order to save time to expand on my sum up.
Okay. We will go to candidate Kilpatrick. Why are people in America constantly criticizing California? Jealousy or an accurate understanding of massive problems that they have never seen the likes of which before?
I think it's because they are stunned and amused by the lack of common sense and lack of leadership here. I'll take a microcosm of the film business. Let's look at the Academy Awards. They have done certain things, and each year they lose 40% of their viewership. There's no entertainment, no vision, no showmanship to the entire thing, and that's just a sample of what's going on in California. Newsom crows about getting $18 billion from the federal government to get themselves out of debt. Well, I think the rest of the country looks at their tax dollars just bailed California out. Look, the good news is that I consider my candidacy right now, and it's a fact, the division of the Newsom government. What's happening right now on July 16th, we called for incentives for the film business. On July 25th, he threw $330 million at the film business. On July 16th, we called for preferential water rates to organic farmers and to those involved in humane animal production. A couple of days later, he called for a humane hog production initiative. We're providing, and the people right here on this debate are the only people providing any vision for the Newsom government. So we as a people, all of us together, we can get this done. We can do it with all great visionary ideas and effective leadership. Mr. Newsom needs to step aside.
Candidate Chavez Lodge, why are people talking poorly about California? What is their true motivation, in your opinion?
You know, that statement from Newsom is probably a quintessential answer from a narcissist. Oh, they don't like me because they're jealous of me. That's absurd. People don't leave the state to the tune of 200,000 people if they're jealous of California and jealous of their success. They would want to come here like they used to. People make fun of us out here in California for different reasons, you know, the land of fruit and nuts. But it has nothing to do with the success or non-success. If you have a successful state and it's run properly, people want to come there. Texas and Florida and Tennessee are all having booms because people recognize that they don't have the same restrictions and taxes that they do here in California that they do there. The cost of living isn't what it is. California is off the chart for a cost of living. Every category is higher than everybody else. So what is drawing anybody to California? The weather will only go so far. And then you have to look at your standard of living, because as the cost of living goes up, the standard of living goes down unless you're increasing your source of revenue, exponentially. So you have to look at that answer as, you know, he's swinging at nothing. He's swinging at ghosts and trying to come up with answers. You notice that he tries to take credit for everything he thinks is good that's happening, but he says everything that's bad is not my fault. He creates some of the issues that we have here in California, and he adds to the issues that we already have.
Thank you. Well, that was a pretty good summary of multiple candidates giving you their honest opinion of what the governor said. Some of them agreed, some of them did not agree. You saw a variety of opinions. We're going to go down to closing statements. Each candidate will have about a minute. What is the key things that you want all of the voters to remember about you? Picture yourself in an elevator, as I tell candidates. I just stepped into the elevator with you. You have 1 minute to get inside my head and leave it where I can't stop thinking about your campaign, so that when I get home, I look you up. Now, maybe you can't convince me to vote for you, but you could incept me. You could insert your brilliance, your vision. I'm compelled to go home and check out your website and look you up. What would you say to a total stranger in 1 minute to convince them that you are worth looking into further. Candidate Zaki.
Well, I'm running for governor because I'm compelled to fix my beloved home state. I've spent my life in the poultry industry, in the agriculture industry in California, and I've been around politicians in my line of work. I'm very well traveled, and I understand the diverse different needs of what California requires and all Californians need, from business to personal life. We have a lot of different issues that we need, and I know how to achieve those goals easily with bringing everybody together. That is my forte. I'm someone who likes to bring folks together. I'm a unifier. There's a lot of candidates running. That's a testament to things being bad in the state right now. I applaud everyone for stepping up and voicing their opinion. I know that we all have different ways of achieving the goals. The problems that we all wish to tackle we have in common. I don't like seeing mainstream media putting their chosen few in front of us. I believe that we all, as citizens, deserve to have our voice heard. That's why I'm grateful for Yes California and the opportunity to speak here. We need to be able to be heard. We have every right to run for politics and to have a legitimate chance at achieving those goals. And I have built my life on the foundations of honesty, loyalty, trustworthiness. Ask any of my friends, they'll confirm that. I'd like to be the person that you can turn to and know that will get the job done, is not afraid to take the hard stance. I'm not afraid to speak out against election fraud like we saw in 2020. I'm not afraid to say that I support Donald Trump. I am an individual. I have my opinions as everyone else, but I have the capacity and the ability to conquer all of our problems together with your help.
Thank you. Professor Henning, how would you like people to remember you?
I like them to remember me as the guy who says, with regard to the LA Times and Larry Elder, a plague on both your houses. And I'd also like them to remember me as thinking that Newsom should be recalled because in the pandemic, he was negligent in protecting at-risk people in care facilities and overreaching in the restrictions he placed on houses of worship. Because he fails to speak out about human rights abuses in China, even though we're on the Pacific Rim, because he supports abortion and assisted suicide, and because he fails to speak out against UC Berkeley's guidance of nuclear stockpiling and UC San Francisco's research utilizing aborted babies and asking for fresh specimens.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Kilpatrick, how would you like to be remembered if you ran into a random Californian in an elevator and you had just about a minute, maybe a little bit more, to get inside their head and at least get to them to think, I need to look into this guy a little bit more? What would you say to them in that elevator? Candidate Kilpatrick.
I would say, hey, did you see the debate? There were some guys with some really good ideas on there. You might want to take a look at that. And I'm among them. And may I introduce myself? My name is Patrick Kilpatrick. And beyond that, I have great confidence in you, your abilities to take a look at the issues and to decide who you might want to lead you into the next period of time in the state of California. I'm really grateful to have been here. I'm really privileged and it's been an absolute revelation to be part of this process and to participate and to step forward into this realm, and I'm really happy to do so. I think you'll find that I'm a person who, when he goes to see his maker, he's going to say, well, he used everything he could to deliver the goods in every field that he attempted. And he did it well and with good results. So onward and upward to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Candidate Chavez Lodge, 1 minute in an elevator. We've never met. How would you convince me to think more about you and your campaign, sir?
Well, I think my first. Now there's an echo now going on. I think what I would first ask them is, do you know the other candidates except for what you're being shown by the mainstream media. The other candidates do have something to offer. Some of them are very bright, and some of them have the background knowledge and experience to do this job, more so than what's been shoved down your throat in the mainstream media. You are paying for high dollar candidates, the same ones who have made this, created the problems that we have today in California and across the nation. And people need to start looking at the candidates that have ideas, that have integrity and honesty. They don't need to keep regurgitating and recycling the same old career politicians. I would say that, you know, the inept policies of a government can have lasting effects. I'd also tell them immediately that if I'm governor, I'm getting rid of high-speed rail day one. I'm getting rid of cap and trade. You know, I have a correctional rehabilitation and healthcare program that we can implement to really hit this homeless problem and really make a difference. I just want to let them know that I am the rule of law candidate and public safety candidate, and that I've been in that business for nearly 30 years. Been retired since. I own my own small business. I was a budget commissioner, a police commissioner. I was a federal agent. I'm an insurance agent now. Across the board, I have a lot of knowledge, background, and experience to do this job. And I have the passion to do it. This is my home. This is my children's home. This is my grandchildren's home. I have a reason to save it. And right now, we've got to make a change, because if we continue down the same path and the same candidate types that we elect before, nothing is going to change. They say that when you continue to make the same decisions and mistakes, that's the definition of insanity. Well, that is exactly what I'm talking about. If we don't make a change and stop picking the same candidates from the same cesspool, then you're just going to end up with the same swamp anywhere in, whether it's California or the nation. Thank you.
I want to thank all the candidates for being here. This concludes our debate. I hope that we will see you at the live meeting we're having in Lancaster this Sunday in Lancaster, this Sunday in Lancaster, this Sunday at 1, where people will be able to present their plans on homelessness to homeless people. That's something not even Governor Newsom or the top 4 candidates have been willing to do. We're going to be giving 1/4 of all recall candidates the opportunity to actually present their plans to the people who will be impacted by them. We will have it live on video, and nobody who's in the current California government or who the media says is likely to win the California government could figure out how to do that. I'll leave it for you to answer why, given that homelessness is the top consideration for Californians. How come none of the top candidates could actually meet with homeless people to discuss their plan? But we here at Yes California, on a shoestring budget, can get 1/4 of the candidates to do so. It's almost like they don't want to even try. Of course, I can't prove that, just a wild speculation. I would like to say something to these two people. Danny L., who wanted to promote Larry Elders as the man for California. And I'd also like to point out this person. Jose Lopez voted for Michael Loebs. Here's the problem with both of you. You're promoting candidates who won't even show up to debates. This person's going to run Sacramento, and they don't have the courage to meet other candidates on the field of intellectual battle, and you can come here and promote them, but you can't get them to go to a debate. Shame on you. These people who are showing up here are not professionals. It's scary. It's intimidating. And yet they do it because they care. You can't even be bothered to do that. Please don't run for office, and please, whoever you're promoting should not be running either. They simply don't have what it takes to respect the people of California and show up. Thank you. We'll see you soon in Lancaster. Thank you, all the candidates, for being here.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Thank you.